Thank you for everyone for being here. Welcome. I am Terry Fields. I'm a partner at South Atlanta Injury Lawyers, along with Danielle Betts, who's also on the webinar. And this is the second in our series of webinars about nursing homes. And our topic today is spotting nursing home abuse. What I always like to say is if you're just hearing me talk, if you have questions, that's going to get really boring and that's not going to keep your attention. So I encourage you, please use the chat. I'm going to be monitoring the chat for any questions that come in, because what's most important about this is that you get valuable information that you can use to help you in your life, not just hear what I think that you want to know. So feel free to make this as interactive as possible. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're not going to keep you 1 second past 30 minutes. So spotting nursing home abuse, this webinar is about awareness and prevention. So first things first, what is nursing home abuse? I think abuse, the very simple definition of it is it doesn't feel good. What doesn't feel good? But in the nursing home context, what is nursing home abuse? So in this webinar, we'll go over generally 6 types of nursing home abuse. We have physical abuse, which is, kind of what you would think it is: hitting, pushing, improper use of restraints. We have emotional abuse, verbal assault, threats, intimidation, sexual abuse, unwanted touching, sexual assault, financial abuse, which could be a lot of things, including stealing money or unauthorized use of financial accounts. We have neglect, which is often not thought of as abuse, but it absolutely is abuse, even though it's not active abuse. It's neglect. That's what it is. And exploitation, taking advantage of residents for personal gain. All right. So what is physical abuse? You see, I have a picture of a man here. He's covered up from head to toe, and I did that for a reason. I'll tell you in just a second. So there are obvious signs: unexplained bruises or cuts. You go and visit a loved one in the nursing home, and you see that they have a black eye. Now, it's very often, and it's true that older people, anyone who's in a nursing home, might bruise more easily. But if there's not a good explanation as to how this injury happened, we may have some abuse. Also, broken bones or fractures. There are a lot of falls. A lot of people are placed in nursing homes for fall protection. And if you see broken bones or fractures, it may be because they're not being tended to properly, and they're being the victim of abuse. Signs of restraint marks or on wrists or ankles. Very often, elderly folks will get up and walk when they're not supposed to. So if they're being restrained against their will, that could manifest in physical marks or injuries to their body, which are indicative of this physical abuse. Sudden weight loss or dehydration absolutely could be that the resident of the nursing home is afraid to eat or being intimidated from eating, and that could be a sign of physical abuse. The reason why I picked this picture of this gentleman being covered from head to toe, we have a case that recently came into our office of a lady who was visiting her loved one very often. And that is one of the tips that I would give you to avoid nursing home abuse. And this lady was actually doing it. Our client was visiting her loved one constantly, but every time she visited her, she was covered from head to toe. When she finally pulled back the sheet and was able to look at her loved one, she saw bed sores on her feet. And so we're actually litigating a case right now for bed sores on her feet. It's not anything that would have been readily apparent, even if she was sitting in a chair. And I think when she saw her, she was in different places, the bed, the chair, but she always had socks on. So it is a good idea to physically examine your loved one to see what is their actual physical condition and to document the progression of that physical condition of their body. Are they getting worse? Are the bruises, unexplained bruises and cuts that you see, are they healing? Are they not healing? Are new ones forming? So, and with that, I'm just gonna sprinkle in some tips here and there. Always take pictures. We are lucky to be living in an age where all of us are walking around constantly with a camera and a video camera. You can take video, you can take pictures. we are all walking around with one on our person constantly. So this is when you want to take out your camera, take a picture. This is evanescent evidence. We call it evidence that won't always be there. It goes away. So if you don't take a picture of it and document it, it's like it never existed. So that is physical abuse. And please let me know if you have any questions on physical abuse at any point during this webinar. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. So that is our first one, physical abuse. Next, we have emotional abuse. And let me just preface this by saying, I've actually witnessed, before I was a lawyer, I have witnessed elderly folks being subject to emotional abuse. What happens is I believe that the workers no excuse whatsoever, but a lot of times the workers in these nursing homes and in these areas where they come in contact with elderly folks, they don't get the training that they need. They don't get the support that they need. And they tend to become familiar with their residents, and they talk to them kind of crazy because they can get away with it. And I've actually, I mean, if you look on TikTok and YouTube, you can see some disturbing instances of emotional abuse. And the signs of emotional abuse, and that's just, I'm just going to say, talking to the resident nasty or rough or making them feel bad about themselves. You can notice your loved one becoming withdrawn from social interactions. If you're at one of those nursing homes that schedule social interactions, they don't ever want to participate. They're always quiet. They're in their room all the time and to themselves. It's understandable if they are subject to abuse by the staff. So if they have unusual behaviors such as rocking or mumbling to soothe themselves, that's absolutely a sign of emotional abuse. If they have fear or anxiety around certain staff members, that's absolutely something that should not be disregarded. Or if they have changes in their mood or personality. That's why it's very important to stay in close contact with your loved one and to visit so that you can monitor their changes, how they are progressing, how they are thriving in this environment or not. That will all cue you into emotional abuse. And again, I would recommend videos, photos, documentation of what is going on so that you'll be able to refer to it. Because a lot of times our minds are not good for storing information. It's just for coming up with ideas. So you want to write down these instances of emotional abuse that you might see. And then it's also a good idea to talk with the staff members that are in close contact with your loved one and talk to their coworkers and see what you can learn about their relationship, what has been observed about their relationship. So next we have sexual abuse. I think a lot of people may be surprised to know how prevalent this is in nursing homes. And I'm just going to say that my unscientific study tells me 99.9% of the offenders are men. And I put this lady here because 99.9%, or I don't know the percentage of victims would be women, but I would say it's probably higher for women than the male nursing home residents. But it's something you want to be cognizant of. I will never forget this case. I think I hollered out and screamed, and we talked about in this office a lady who was in a nursing home. That she was a younger lady. I believe she was always under a mental disability, so she was seeking care in a nursing home, and she came up pregnant and had a baby, and it was a shock to everyone when she had that baby. And there are more disturbing instances of sexual abuse in nursing homes, and I think a lot of people think of sexual abuse or rape as being between people who are physically attracted to each other, and that is not necessarily the case. It's just about power. It's just about abuse. So don't be surprised and stay on your P's and Q's to recognize sexual abuse, and don't think, oh no, that couldn't be happening. It absolutely can. So this is why we want to examine our loved ones. You want to examine for bruising around breast or the genital area, unexplained sexually transmitted infections, absolutely. And with that, you have to make sure that your loved one is getting their regular checkups. Because with the instance that I just told you about, the lady who, and Google it, if you can't believe it, just Google it. She came up pregnant. She had missed consecutive medical appointments because that should have been found out during her medical appointments. but they missed some for at least what, 10 months that it takes to have a baby. They missed them, and then she wound up having this baby. So you got to make sure that your loved one is getting their medical checkups. And then if with that medical checkup, if there's unexplained sexually transmitted infections, you know that there's something going on. And that is rock solid evidence of nursing home abuse. Torn or stained underclothing, very, very, very telling. And if your loved one has difficulty walking or standing, unexplained difficulty walking or standing, that is a sign of sexual abuse. All right, don't be shy. If you have any questions, just put them in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to keep rocking and rolling. Financial abuse. This is something to really, really be careful of and to watch out for. You have sudden changes in the financial situation, which means that if you are in a position to monitor the financial situation of your loved one, you should do so. You should do so at least on a monthly basis to be able to identify sudden changes in the financial situation. So if there's unexplained withdrawals from their bank account, if they have missing belongings, personal belongings, or missing cash, or if you see unauthorized use of credit cards or bank accounts, there might be some financial abuse going on. There are also certain nursing homes which allow family members to come and stay overnight. I mean, I would monitor that situation. I would see, especially if financial documents are being left with the nursing home resident, you want to make sure that those documents are secure and they're not being tampered with, and monitor very, very closely. A lot of times elderly folks, older folks might not remember what they're doing. And if this is when I advise, if it's necessary for a conservator. In the state of Georgia, a conservator handles the money for someone else who's not able to. The legal standard is lack sufficient capacity to make responsible decisions. So if you suspect that your loved one is falling into the area where they lack the ability to make responsible legal decisions for themselves, it's probably time to seek a conservatorship just to protect them from themselves. So, and to protect them from, other loved ones or nursing home staff that might understand that this person has money and would seek to take advantage of that. So, want to be very, very careful about financial abuse. All right, I don't see any questions. Y'all let me know. Neglect. Neglect is probably the most prevalent form of nursing home abuse that we have seen in our law firm. Neglect it's just failing to do. It's not actively doing something. So physical abuse and sexual abuse and financial abuse, someone is physically doing something that they have no business doing. They are physically abusing this person, actively abusing. Neglect is not doing anything, hands off. And that's when we see bed sores and pressure ulcers. That's when you just have someone laying in the bed more than they are up and being active. They're supposed to get up, be encouraged to be active, up to toilet, and up to eat. But if they are not being cared for, if they're just being left to just rot actually in their bed, they're going to develop pressure ulcers and bed sores. If you spot poor personal hygiene, they're in soiled linens, their bed sheets are not changed regularly. If you notice those kind of things, odors coming from your loved one, that is when you know that there are signs of neglect. When they have untreated medical issues, for instance, your loved one is diabetic and needs their insulin shot on a daily basis and they're not receiving it, and there's no evidence that they've been receiving it. These are signs of neglect, unsanitary living conditions, and also inadequate clothing or malnutrition, all good signs that there is neglect of your loved one. All right. And again, I say this is one of the more prevalent issues that we see. I've actually had a case where a lady had bed sores and actually passed away, unfortunately. Shortly thereafter, developing bed sores. And the defense, they always have all these kinds of arguments that they make to counter that there's actually neglect going on, but we have our arguments as well. We have arguments that we can make in concert with our medical professionals, because bed sores should just not happen. There's too much evidence, there's too much research on bed sores, and they are preventable. So, okay, even though folks want to argue that they're not preventable, they are preventable. Okay, so moving right along, how to report nursing home abuse. Well, first of all, I would suggest that you report it immediately and often as necessary. You need to report it to the nursing home administrators. In Georgia, we have the Adult Protective Services. We have local law enforcement and also ombudsman's programs. If you're not in the Atlanta area, you can locate those programs, and there may be some here in Atlanta as well who may be able to effectuate a change in the way that these nursing homes behave, but you want to always report. Be loud and vocal about your loved one and the abuse that they are experiencing. And I'm just gonna, repetition is the mother of learning, so I'm just gonna say again, you want to document, you want to write it down. On May 17th, 2024, I came in and I visited my aunt and I noticed X, Y, and Z, and here's the picture and here's the video. That just reminds me, it's a good idea to get your loved one on video talking about how they have been treated in the nursing home. Because of course, an overarching sign of nursing home abuse is if they're telling you that they have been neglected or they have been abused or someone talked to them crazy or they have been punched or any of that. So you want to get that on video. That is always great evidence of nursing home abuse. So let me go back to who to report to. Nursing home administrators. They should be very sensitive to any reports of nursing home abuse, because that can arise from the reports of nursing home abuse can arise litigation, legal liability for hurting residents of the nursing home. So you want to be sure to bring it to the attention of the staff, then whoever is managing the staff, all the way up to, as far as you can, maybe even the owners of the nursing home. Then you might want to get legal representation as well to send a letter just to let them know what's going on. If at all possible, of course, you want to move your loved one. If you're afraid of any retaliation or reprisal, it might be a good idea to move them out of the nursing home. It's not always the best choice, but that's something to be cognizant of when you're making the reports. But I want to always encourage you to make the report. If something is arising to the level, so very often we get people who call us and they'll say something that has happened to them. And when it is so egregious and so outrageous, my question always is, have you called the police? Have you made a legal report? So if something is really egregious, it's looking to be criminal, go ahead and call the police and have them launch an investigation, because it very well may be criminal. And if you ever want to pursue civil liability, a criminal case is good evidence in that civil case. There is a guarantee under our Bill of Rights for speedy criminal justice. So very often those cases can resolve before or while we're investigating a civil case. So you want to make sure to get the law, the police, whoever, get them involved so they can launch an investigation of the situation. So what to include in the report? You want details of the suspected abuse. The closer you are to the date that you discover this abuse, the better. So you want to be as detailed as you can. Name staff. One thing about these nursing homes, they have staff that are moving all the time. They worked in Fayetteville at this nursing home last month, and next month they're at Pruitt, and next week they're applying for a job. They're going to be up in Gwinnett. So they're constantly moving. And of course, it gets to be a small world. So you want to make sure you write down their name, write down any contact information, and write down a narrative of what they know. If they're not the actual perpetrator, maybe they're helping you with evidence, or they witnessed something. So you want to write down their account, because very often they might move to another facility and then become unhelpful. They don't want to participate anymore. So you want to be as detailed in your report and capture the information. You're not going to be able to remember it years and years later. And of course, date, time, and location of the incident. And I'm going to encourage you, pictures, videos, documentation, anything that you have, be comprehensive. If when in doubt, go ahead and use that method of recording. Is that 11:50? I can't believe that. Okay, I need to move on. Okay. But this is very important. It's very important to report nursing home abuse, just so that it doesn't happen to your loved one again, nor to anyone else's loved one. So I have put into this presentation, this next slide is the information for the Georgia Department of Human Services Division on Aging Services. They have their number there, 1-866-55-AGING. So that's 552-4464, and then press 3 if you want to report nursing home abuse. And I also have their website there. All right. So that's where you want to report the nursing home abuse. So this is how to prevent the nursing home abuse. I've kind of talked about this a little bit. We have our lady there. She's smiling. She's happy. So you want to regularly visit and check on loved ones. This cannot be understated. If you can, multiple times a week, you want to make sure that they're in a facility that's close to you so you can visit them multiple times a week. Beware of the signs of abuse, which we just went over in detail. And if you have any questions on those, I'm more than happy to discuss those. So you want to encourage open communication with the residents, not just your loved ones, but your loved one's neighbor. Who's in the room next door, to the left, to the right, across the hall, catty corner, either way. You want to monitor them, see what's going on with them. And then advocate for residents' rights. There is a Bill of Rights for nursing home residents, which we will share with you on a future webinar. You just let us know if you want to see those. And you need to be sure that you're aware of them. Your loved one who's in a nursing home is aware of them, and anyone around is aware. We're a community, so we have to share this information with one another. So in conclusion, so you want to recognize the different types of abuse, understand the reporting and how to do it. And let me just backtrack. I think you understand that at any individual nursing home, you will need to seek their chain of command in making your report. So of course, if you have any questions on that, you need to know. It may or may not be wise to talk to the staff themselves or the immediate supervision of that staff, but you want to make a report. You got to make a report and then have it documented. Always ask for a copy of your report as well. All right, you want to employ prevention strategies to protect residents. The best way is to have the nursing home staff recognize that you are conscientious and involved, and that you love your loved one, and that you are going to visit regularly so that they will take care of your loved one the way that they're supposed to. It's sad to say, but sometimes that's the incentive that they need to do what they're supposed to be doing anyway. So this is just a call to action to stay vigilant and proactive in protecting the vulnerable. So, all right. So I just wanted to, that's the end of my presentation. I wanted to preserve some time for questions. And then also to encourage you, please go to our website, SouthAtlantaInjuryLawyers.com. If you enjoyed this webinar, leave us a 5-star review. Even if you didn't enjoy the webinar, just leave us a 5-star review. And then this is different places to find us on social media. So I see, thank you for this webinar. It's needed to educate. Okay, please continue. Oh, we will definitely. So speaking of future webinars, thank you so much, Ms. Boyd. We have one coming up next time. Mark your calendars, July 25th, 2024. It's actually going to be this very same link at 11:30. The topic is going to be how to navigate the legal system for nursing home abuse claims. That is going to be the topic for next time. So go ahead and put us on your calendar. July 25th, 2024 at 11:30 a.m. How to navigate the legal system for nursing home abuse claims. So tell everybody you know to come on in to get this information, and we'll see you back then. All right, so I think that was it. And then this is just another reminder to leave us a 5-star review and let us know if you have any questions. You are so welcome, Ms. Simmons. You are so welcome. Is there any other questions? So I'm thinking about talking about what are the good nursing homes and not, but I'm not because I don't want to be sued for slander. Just in case the nursing home owner is on the webinar, I don't want them to capture this and try to sue me. But that it's just a good idea to do your homework about where you're putting your. Thank you so much for the 5-star review. Thank you. It's just a good idea to do your research. There's a lot of information online. The Better Business Bureau, it is well known that you can pay to get a good review on their website, but it's still worth checking them out to see what folks have to say about them. And then some nursing homes are just notorious. So you might just want to check online before you put your loved one anywhere. It's a good idea to pay for extra services. For instance, you know that your loved one is prone to fall. There are fall protections that the nursing homes provide. And if that is something that you're paying for and that they are promising to provide, you need to make sure that you are getting the benefit of those services. Because a lot of times they just ignore, they upsell you and then just treat everyone the same. So this is why you got to stay vigilant. You got to stay on top of what's going on with your loved one. So I don't want to end later than 12, and I don't want to end earlier than 12 either. So any questions from anybody? Danielle, do you have any questions or anything to add?
I do not. Thank you very much, Attorney Fields, for all of that information. Everything that she said is basically what we wanted to convey. I don't really have anything to add. And also, we will try to send out a link for the reviews, so that because people call us based on reviews. And if you found any value in the information, we would appreciate you leaving a review so that people will feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling our office.
That's right.
If you ever need any assistance with a nursing home issue or another type of personal injury issue, please do not hesitate to call us.
Please do not hesitate to call us. So yeah, please leave your review and then give me any feedback about, we're going to do these webinars the last Wednesday in every month. So if you have any suggested topics or anything that we should cover, or any feedback about how we could make this better for you, you feel free to let us know. We are here. We are here for you. Oh, I recognize Miss Boyd. All righty. All right.
Thank you very much.
You are so welcome.
Thank you, Attorney Bess. Thank you, Attorney Fields. Thank you.
So welcome. So good to see you this morning.
Thank you. Great to see you as well.
Yes.
And you too, Attorney Bess.
Yes, you also. Thank you to all of you who took the time to come today.
Just gonna hang on just in case there are any questions. Any questions? Oh, and I just wanted to say it's a long process in it's a courageous thing that we do in caring for loved ones, and sometimes it feels like a thankless task. But I'm just reminded of that when I think about some of the clients that we have and what they do, what they have done for their loved ones. So you are to be commended if you are taking care of a loved one and documenting what's going on with them and just being on top of it. It can feel like a full-time job, an additional full-time job, but it has its reward. So we thank you for all you do in taking care of your loved ones.